So in this video, I'm going to try to give you some tips and such with the power steering lines and removing the radiator. This is in a Ford 6.4 liter diesel. It's a pain in the butt, to keep it short and simple there. Now this isn't a full walkthrough video because various reasons. If you want to know a little bit more, just after I kind of show you the truck, then I will kind of explain the special circumstances here with this truck. There's a little bit of a story here and why I didn't shoot anything more detailed. But I've been working on it for like over a year now. It's a friend of mine's truck. So, but anyways, let me just kind of show you where the power steering lines go. There's 3 of them, and then kind of some tips and tricks about the radiator. And just some tips and tricks for removing some rusty power steering lines. Hopefully this helps you. Again, sorry, it's not going to be super in-depth. I'm not going to hit every single point and every single conundrum that comes up. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you appreciate the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel if you like it. I definitely appreciate it. It helps support the channel and all that. So let's get to, let me show you the truck and kind of show you around, and then I can explain a little bit more after. All right, here's the truck. Sorry, it's going to be a little bit windy. So the power steering lines, there's basically 3 hard lines and then a few soft lines. And let's see if I can point them out to you. So there's a line here. There's 2 lines here. Basically, one goes to the power steering pump, this one I believe, and then one goes to the steering box, which I believe is this one. I could be mistaken. I'll have to double check them. But so you get one goes to the power steering pump, one goes to the steering box, and the steering box is kind of down there. You can see, one of the new lines here. This one actually goes to the power steering pump. It wraps around the front of the engine, underneath here, and then up to there. Here's the power steering pump behind the fan. Obviously there's no fan here. This one just goes to the reservoir. So this is just kind of like a drain. You can see it kind of goes here. This is the reservoir. So the other one goes, and let's see if I can make some room here. So you can see 2 of them down there. Well, 3 if you count the one that's just passing by. Let's see here. So this one comes from the power steering pump. Sorry. This one comes from the brake booster. This one goes out to the cooler. So this one comes down, and then, well, it goes down this way, and it goes underneath the radiator. Front of the engine pops out here, comes up, goes into the cooler, and then there's another line that goes in here that goes to the reservoir. So the tips and tricks for doing these ones were all rusty, and they were so rusty that they started leaking. So what I did, to get these ones off, is come in with a Dremel and cut it as close as I could up to here, and then put a socket over it and then get it off. That seemed to be the trick, and it worked here as well. I just didn't use a deep socket here. I just used a shallow socket, but you should be able to get enough room in there. But in order to do all of that, you do need to take out the fan and the shroud and all that stuff. Now I might have taken out additional stuff trying to get stuff out of my way, because it was a huge pain in the butt trying to get the fan shroud out, for sure. So, and of course, I've been trying to get this thing out for 6 months, and it finally just fell out while I'm talking to you. To get the power steering pump out, you have to get the fan. I've seen some videos where they didn't take the fan shroud out, but I'm just not sure how successful they were. Like, that seems really hard. There's not a lot of room. But once you get the fan shroud out, there's really just these bolts right here. There's one right here. There's one right here. and then this kind of pulls out, and then that's that. Now the trick for getting the fan shroud out. Now the fan shroud is a major pain in the butt. So there's these little studs right here. One here, there's one here, and then there's a couple studs at the bottom that hold it in. These are so hard to get a socket with the bolt onto it, and then you're just not even sure, and it takes forever to get off. It's just I hate a lot of things about working on this truck, but that was definitely a pain in the butt. So there's that. But once you undo the bolts that hold the fan shroud, you have to take the fan clutch off the water pump pulley here. You know, and that's that usual, like, you have to hold this and then use a, wrench down there to like break it loose. You can use a universal tool from like the auto parts store to some degree, but there's probably buying the specialized one is going to be easier, significantly easier. The other thing was, once you get all that undone, the fan shroud actually won't come out. What we ended up doing in order to get that out is taking these bolts off here and then over here, and then being able to pull the radiator forward. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, but it's probably obvious, is that there's no battery here or any of that stuff. That was all taken out in order to better get access to where the power steering lines are. Getting this line out, if you have to replace the line that goes from the steering box to the cooler, there is a clip that's, so here's the tow hook. There's two hoses right back there. There's a clip just behind that holds this line in, and of course you can't really get to it. There's a bumper which I've taken off or cut off here and I'll replace. That prevents you from sticking your hand down this way, but you have to work at it from the bottom. You can reach up from underneath the bumper here and get to that clip. Once you undo that clip, you should be able to pull this line out through underneath, out from this side over here, and that's I think that's the main trick there. Other than that, so after I replaced the lines, I filled up this here, and then I ran the power steering pump with a electric drill, which I'll show you here in a sec, just to kind of pump fluid into the system to check for leaks. Right now it doesn't look like there's any leaks because I just did it earlier today, so that's good. That means I can start putting everything back together. I want to make sure that there's no leaks, so I put some power steering fluid on. The reservoir is loose right now, so that kind of sucks, but I'm going to spin the power steering pump. I'm going to use the drill. Like you do it by hand, it's pretty easy, but the reason I do it with the drill is because, the 50 whatever turns that I'm going to get out by hand, it's not going to be... That's just much better. And then what I find is that I pick this thing up and I lift it up a bit, and then a bunch of air bubbles come out and more fluid goes down. So this way I can try to fill up the system, make sure there's no leaks before I literally put everything back together and then have, still have a leak. So, and I'm not completely sure, but it seems like clockwise is the correct direction to go. So I won't say that's for certain, but as far as I can tell, that is the correct direction. So basically the story behind this truck is that a friend of mine went to an auction. He lives in Canada, and he went to an auction in Detroit, and he was intending to buy something else. He ended up buying this truck, and he needed a place to park it. So I was like, oh yeah, you can park it at my place, no problem. I figured, a couple weeks it'd be gone. So he lives in Canada, which is like an hour and a half away from my house, or like from his house. Canada is probably only like 45 minutes or something like that, but his house is probably another half an hour or something like that beyond that. So I realized that there's going to be some conundrums here. Plus, it needed to work. So the power steering lines were definitely leaking, and the bed was rusty. So after the truck sat at my place for probably like 6 months, I was like, you know what? I'll help you out. if you kind of pay me. I'll help you replace the bed, and I'll help you, and I'll just do the power steering lines, and then not realizing what I was getting into, and then I'll help sell the truck, because that way you don't have to come from Canada, because he didn't want to import it to Canada to sell it. He just rather just sell it in the United States, which makes sense because it's just a huge hassle, just an additional hassle when he could just as easily sell it. Well, with a little bit more hassle, sell it in the United States. So, but I have a lot of other projects going on. So, I kind of worked on this thing on the side, and I didn't really record anything of what I was doing because I figured, power steering lines would be fairly easy, get them done, turn around, sell the truck within a few months, and then boom, I'll make a little bit of money off of it. That is not what happened. The power steering lines in this truck are a huge pain in the ass. And, it's winter and stuff like that. And there's other issues with the truck. And so the truck, we're going on actually almost 2 years now with this truck. So a year and a half. But so I've been working on it for about a year-ish. But again, it's wintertime. The truck's out in the snow. Like, I'm not going to work on it, if I don't have to. Other projects take precedent, blah, 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 blah. So I haven't been really recording any of my work. I've just been kind of like, tinkering on it here and there. And then I realized, there's no like resources here for this. Like, there's no video showing like where the power steering lines are, or how you take the radiator out and all that stuff. So what I figured I'll do is at least try to cover some of that stuff in this video. And again, if you appreciate it, if you like it, please give me a thumbs up. That does help. And, subscribe if you like the channel. If you want to see, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Anything constructive criticism and all that stuff. I'll see what I can remember as far as, if you have specific questions or specific things that are difficult. So if you want to see more about the truck or just interested in the story in general and like how it works out, but, I'll talk to my friend and see if he's willing to post like, how much you bought it for and all that stuff, because you got it for a good deal. It only has 33,000 miles on it, and it's a 2008, I believe, 2008, 2009. I'll have to double check that. So, all right. Again, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.